get some thumbs up. And if you have your chat function, love to hear from you. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. And as others are going to be trickling in, that's totally okay. We're excited to talk about, and as you can see with our title, how to bring our portrait of a graduate to life using SpacesEDU. Uh, so what I'm excited about is I'm joined by two amazing people that I've had the chance to work with this year, and we're going to do introductions in a moment. But today we're going to be talking about some real life examples, some strategies, and have some experiences to share as well. But before we dive in, as you can see on the bottom right of the screen, I'd love to get to know who's in the room with us. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing a quick introduction of your name, perhaps your role, and the school and district you're representing today. And as an icebreaker, I thought since we're heading into a new school year, maybe we can share a little bit about our favorite moments this summer. So maybe it's work related, but could be just a personal fun time you had this summer, and it just helps us break the ice. So let's take a minute or so to introduce ourselves, and then we'll get going. I know for myself and my family, there's a lot of baby fever. I had two cousins giving birth in July, and I'm a July baby, so I have some partners in crime now in the family. One of my cousins giving birth to twins, and the other baby boy. So that was always nice. A lot of love this summer in the family. So very, very, very cool. Uh, Guadalupe, welcome. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Feel free to let me know if I'm not. Welcome from Surrey, BC. Welcome, Nat. Lots of time on the lake. Amazing. Welcome, Chad from Whistler. Playing hockey. Nice. Welcome, Jane. Okay, I see a lot of popping up. That's awesome. Welcome, Catherine. Oh, Chad from Richmond. Awesome. Very, very sweet. Okay, this is great. Love the turnout. So exciting. Great to see all of us in the chat, and yeah, looking forward to doing this together and learning from each other. Again, we don't want this, although we're on Zoom, to feel like a sit and get experience. We want you to share in the chat, ask questions. So excited to get going. But before we do, maybe some quick housekeeping, just a few things. Yes, all sessions will be recorded. You might have heard that as we got started, and it'll be sent to you. So please don't feel like you have to rush and take a lot of notes unless you like doing that. You can always come back to this recording and play at your own pace. We also have the option for closed captions on Zoom. So you might see that button show captions on your bottom toolbar. But if you don't, you just click on the more option and you should have the ability to click on captions there. If you have a question, you'll also see on your toolbar that we have a Q&A box. Feel free to put your questions in there. But if not, totally okay. We also have the chat box where we're doing our intros right now, but also for a place for discussion, as we might have some questions for you. And if you can't find that Q&A box, you can always pop your question in there. And finally, and I'll remind you of this at the end, but we do have a survey for when you exit. It's super helpful as someone for myself, kind of running my first webinar. I'd love to know what went well, what could be better, and what you gained out of the experience. Now, as I mentioned, introductions. All right, so my name is Samer. I come from the classroom. So when I was a teacher, I would give students this example to how to say my name. If you take the word some and you take the word air and you squish it together, you get Samer. Now, why am I telling you that? Because I usually would go by Mr. Gill or Mr. G, but I feel like kids always want to know the first name. They're like, what's the S stand for? What's the S stand for? So that's like my little trick that I always like to share. So now I'm a customer success specialist here at SpacesEDU, and I'm so happy to be here with all of you. And I'm going to pass it off to Kristen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kristen Bledsoe, and I'm a former high school English teacher, turned into a high school administrator, and now I am a district administrator, working with our middle and high schools with this surrounding this portrait of a graduate, portrait of a learner work here in Carter County, Kentucky.
My name's Jeffrey Huffman. I am a 38-year educator. I was a guidance counselor for 23 years, And right now, I am back to teaching mathematics at the high school level. I also am teaching a course for rising teachers that is made up of high school students. So this is my, like I said, 38th year.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kristen and Jeffrey. I had the pleasure to work with both of you this year. And if I forget to say it at the end, if we're running out of time, thank you so much for being here today. So I really do appreciate that. And there is someone else that's not on the screen, but I just want to give a big shout out to Tatiana, who's kind of our moderator today. And also without her, this wouldn't have been possible. So big shout out to you, Tatiana. Thank you so much for all your support. Really appreciate it. All right. And then I know I keep saying before we getting started, but I promise this is the last one. Before we dive in, I also just want to share a quote that I came across last year. I think I love this quote. And it comes from Dr. Tina H. Bugren. A teacher makes more minute by minute decisions than a brain surgeon. If that shocks you, you probably haven't spent much time in a classroom. For any of us that are former educators or are educators, we probably do relate with this. And I always, when I do mention this quote, I like to change the word teacher to educator, because I feel like everyone in this landscape, whether you're a district admin, a custodial member, office administrator, classroom educator, we're all part of the same family in that sense. And we have to make a lot of decisions. So for you to be here today, I really do appreciate that. Coming from the classroom myself, I know it's a busy time. So I just want to say that, we see you, we hear you, and the times that we're living in, we do need you. So thank you so much for taking that time out of your busy schedules to be here with us. So what are we going to talk about today? Here's a little bit of our agenda. We're going to talk about the why and the what with a portrait of a graduate. And from there, I would love to then hand it off to Kristen and Jeffrey to talk about Carter County and their journey, both with the implementation of their portrait of a graduate and their time with SpacesEDU, which will then segue into a quick demonstration of how you can get started with your POG and bringing it to life in SpacesEDU, following with some best practices and takeaways and time for some questions. So again, the objective today, let's understand how we can at least start to activate our POG through SpacesEDU. Here are some real life implementation examples, which I always think is beneficial, and maybe walk away with one or two strategies. But before we do that, we actually going to launch a very quick poll. And the goal for this poll is really just to get a sense of our familiarity with POG, how we're feeling to get this started for the new school year. So I think at this point it has been launched and it should be shown as a pop-up for you. If you're having trouble finding that poll, just please let us know. And maybe let's take 60 seconds, 1 minute to give you a chance to answer the poll, find it, and then we will share the results. Oh, let me see. Let's see if it launched now. Just confirming that it launched. Thumbs up. Awesome. So again, two questions here. My apologies. The first kind of describing your experience with SpacesEDU, and the second about your feeling bringing Portrait of a Graduate to life. We did go with the Michael Scott The Office meme. I don't know if anyone's a fan. I gotta say it's like a top 20 show for me, maybe top 25. I watch a lot of TV and movies, so I'm always working on that list myself. Let's go another like 40 seconds, 40, 45 seconds. It's funny looking at all of the Michael faces. I'm trying to think how I would describe each one now that I've thought about this. Put a word to each face is funny. All right, let's do 10 more seconds. We got most of us answered, maybe a few that haven't. All right, I've ended the poll and want to share results now. This is great to see a nice mix. I think it's great to level set in this way with our experience in Space EDU. We have some that are feeling like experts, some intermediate, and majority feeling beginners, which is totally okay. Now, with how we feel about our POG, I see that it ranges from a lot of different spaces. I did notice the highest number was number 4, and I see number 4 kind of has that look of maybe, I don't know if it would be unsure or not, maybe not fully confident, but it's coming and then we're going to get it started soon. So I really appreciate everyone sharing how they're feeling. I think it helps with us with the level setting. And we will kind of go through all the different strategies that we can to get all you feeling the best version of Michael Scott to start your portrait of a graduate. Thank you so much. All right, so as mentioned, we kind of want to first talk about the why and the what of a portrait of a graduate. And so this is just a good chance for us to level set here. And I think something to remember is a portrait of a graduate, a POG, is not just about academic success, but about preparing students for life beyond school. And I love the word portrait because it's so visual. It's a chance to reflect a vision of a whole student, including academic, social, and emotional growth. And at its core, it's not just a document or poster you hang on a wall, it's a vision of what success looks like for your students. And I think when we pair that with portfolios, it gives students a way to show that growth. So it's one thing to say our students are great collaborators. It's another to be like, here, we can open this portfolio and see actual evidence of that, whether it's reflections, whether it's projects that are done, artifacts that can prove it, especially living in a society now where we're in a proof economy, right? It's not just good enough to say, I know these skills. How can I prove and show it? Kind of leads us into a few reasons why this work is important. Of course, first being that we want to prepare students to be future ready, right? Employers and communities are telling us they value certain durable skills, right? Communication, critical thinking, adaptability. We want this work to be holistic. It's not just about the grades, it's about the whole child, including that social and emotional growth. It's student-centered, right? We talk about student ownership and agency all the time. Having a portfolio to express your POG, they're not just being told what they've learned, they're actively reflecting on it and then documenting it. And then finally, reflection, of course, is the key piece, right? Reflection keeps students and helps students see not just what they know, but who they're becoming. I think that's why a POG is more than just a framework. It's like a vision for student growth. And it leads me to quote number 2 of 3, which I love so much. When students reflect on their learning journey, they begin to understand not just what they learned, but who they're becoming. And so, although this quote is from a higher ed context, I think it speaks to a universal truth, right? When students at any age are given tools to pause, reflect, and make meaning, they grow not just as learners, but as people. And so I think that's no exception for middle, high school students, elementary students. There are no exception to that. It fits for everyone. And so I love to share this quote. I think it captures something we've seen again and again in any of our work with students. When reflection is intentional and it's structured, they don't just memorize or recount what they've done, they learn, right? And they understand what they've done. And actually, at this point, I'm going to pass it over. You can take a break from my voice. I'm going to pass it over to Kristen and Jeffrey to share a little bit about their experience, what they've been working on throughout the last school year, and some plans for the future.
Thank you so much, Samir. So I'm going to kind of frame our journey a little bit to get started, and then we're going to talk about some things that we learned and some examples that we have to share. And Mr. Huffman's going to talk a lot about how he actually made this happen in his classroom. So we are in Kentucky, and in Kentucky there is an initiative known as the Local Laboratories of Learning, and part of that is really focused on this portrait of a graduate and giving students that opportunity to express what they have learned in their high school career as a local accountability model. And so we were selected, as you guys can see, and this, I did take a lot of this information from our L3 Google site that we keep on our district website. So if it ever you want to go reference any of this, I don't care a bit to drop the link to our website over in the chat. This is in summer of 2022, we started our L3 work. We were selected to join that third cohort. And we had a group of people that started meeting. We conducted empathy interviews within our community with students, parents, and I'm not going to go through all the steps, but essentially we spent really two years just kind of getting prepared to really see this take off. um, and so we have had some mentoring groups that have been involved. We've had focus groups with students that came in who were graduates of Carter County schools. We have 2 high schools in our county and a career and technical center, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we brought some of those students back who had already graduated and talked to them about how could we have made your high school experience better. We really tried to get a lot of information and a lot of input from different groups of people in planning this portrait of a graduate. So our county adopted, let's see, we can go on to the next slide. Our county adopted the America Succeeds Durable Skills Framework as our portrait of a graduate. And there are very noticeable similarities. You know, collaboration is there. That's one of the Kentucky, the 6 Kentucky portrait tenets. So there are very, very noticeable similarities. And actually, I have another document that I've created that actually outlines how our 10 line up to the 6 that the state of Kentucky recommends. So these are the skills that our county felt like were important for students to have when they graduate high school. And again, we've adapted this from the America Succeeds. And so within those 10, then you can see there are also then 10 additional sub-skills. So there are plenty of opportunities for our students to demonstrate through a variety of means that they have mastered skills that are going to make them a productive citizen and a good employee whenever they leave us and enter the workforce. You can go ahead and go on to the next slide. So, as I said, we have spent a couple years kind of getting to this point. This past summer, I came from one of our high schools. I was a principal there, and I came from that role into the district office. And one of the first things that our superintendent at the time said to me was, "Okay, we've got to get this off the ground. We've got to see some action this year with our L3 work, and we've got to get these defenses of learning, get the portrait of a graduate rolling." And so I had gone to the Kentucky Association for School Administrators conference last summer, and I met Jordan from SpacesEDU, and that's kind of how our connection began with SpacesEDU. I talked to him at the vendor hall. I went to his session, and I immediately just knew this was what I wanted. We needed a place to put the evidence, a place to show those artifacts for our students, a place that was consistent, that all students were going to have access to. And so I applied for a grant through the Kentucky ILN and used part of the funding from that to purchase our subscription with SpacesEDU. And it has been a partnership that we have found very rewarding, and have been very supported all along the way. So I will put that put that in there. So we started meeting as a committee of just basically high school teachers and administrators. We had the principals from our 2 high schools and our career and technical center, and then we had teachers from each of those schools. And we created this implementation process. And essentially, we set some goals where we said, these are the things we want to see this year. So that was our year 1. And then we wanted to have some goals for years 2 and 3, and then looking to years 4 and beyond. So as a group, we decided these were the things we wanted to do in year 1. We were going to pilot our first defenses of learning. Our students were going to use their SpacesEDU account to upload their evidence, and they were going to then at the end of the year create these presentations for their defenses of learning. We expected, as you can see there on the second bullet under year 1, that a lot of these projects or presentations might be similar. We know that it's their senior year. This is the first year they really have a formal way to collect their evidence. So a lot of them are going to be, incorporating very similar pieces of evidence. We expected that it would be less polished. It wasn't going to be as professional. We decided as a committee that we were going to provide general feedback from observers. We were not going to be punitive in our feedback. We were going to be encouraging, and use it as a learning process for us, because that's really what this was all about. And reflection on the process. That was a huge part of this, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get further in. But we wanted the students' feedback as they were giving their defenses this school year, and then we wanted to spend some time reflecting as a committee. And the parent involvement level this year was simply, most of them, it was just awareness. Some of the kids kind of, they talked to their parents about it, and when we'd see them out in the community, some of them were like, oh, my daughter was hoping she would be in your group for her defense, but she got to be in a different group. And I was like, yeah, it's okay, it's okay. We split up the adults and tried to have the kids match to different adults from different schools. So we did, that was our year one. We have completed year one. So now we're ready to move on to years 2 and 3. Looking forward and using this implementation process in addition to our reflection to set some goals, and we'll show you guys those goals at the end. You can go to the next slide. This was our rubric we created. It's very verbose, very wordy, as you can see. And so one of the things that we're going to meet back together as a committee pretty early on in September, and we're gonna make this more student friendly. That was one of our goals from our May pilot. But this is what we used to provide feedback to our students when we had our pilot in May. And we decided from this that we just need to make this more student friendly, more user friendly, and not nearly as, like I said, as wordy. Make it just a little bit more easier for students to access. So that's one of our reflection pieces. But that was the rubric that we used. And we can go on to the next slide. Just some highlights from our defenses of learning where our students presented their portraits of a graduate. We did have students from both of our high schools, as well as students who attended the Career and Technical Center. Our students they have home high schools, but then our Career and Technical Center is for both of our high schools. So we had representation from students across both schools and the Career and Tech Center. We also tried really hard when we selected our students to represent a variety of academic levels and career aspirations. So we have students who are there who are wanting to go into the medical field. We have students who are wanting to go into owning their own business, who are interested in things in technology and media creation. So we had a very wide variety of student representation there. We did have representation from all 3 of our buildings as well. Teachers, counselors, administrators from all 3 schools were present, and they gave feedback to students. We offered our seniors this year flexibility in their presentation, and Huffman's going to talk about that, and we have some samples to show too. And then, like I said, we wanted to hear from them, because ultimately the students were doing this this is not a graduation requirement yet in our district. It will become one, but right now it's just we really want you to do this. So these kids were doing this out of the goodness of their hearts in a lot of cases. And so we wanted to hear from them. Well, what did you think about this? What did you, what did you like? And we got some very overwhelmingly positive feedback from the kids. A lot of them said things like, well, I think we should do this instead of taking a test at the end of the year. And I was like, yes, because it's more meaningful to them. That's what, there were some of the things that, Samira, that you pointed out. It's about what the kids, what they want to do and how they are obtaining skills in high school to get to that point. And that is just we're not able to measure that on the Kentucky Summative Assessment in on-demand writing at the end of their junior year. It's just not possible. But getting to sit down and to listen to these kids talk about their passion for welding, or their small business that they've created, that they have learned how to manage other employees from. I know we had a senior who that was part of his portrait of a graduate, was he was able to talk to us about, I started out just mowing yards, and now I've got people working for me, and I'm scheduling them and I'm sending them places. We are seeing these kids do incredible things, and this was just a great way for us to really get to see that. And it's all through this portrait. All right, so I am going to hush for just a few minutes, and I'm going to let Mr. Huffman talk about because if we didn't have Mr. Huffman doing a lot of the legwork in the classroom, I was kind of facilitating things at the district level and checking in and making sure. But the real work was going on in the classroom with these students. And so I want Mr. Huffman to talk for a while about what he did to get this to happen.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, so I called them the guinea pig group, and that's the way I addressed it to them. I said, guess what? You're going to be guinea pigs. And they look at me like, what are you talking about? So I addressed the group of students that I had. And I think the very first thing that we had to do is you had to approach the students for buy-in. Okay, I didn't want it to be additional work for them. I wanted it to be different work. So whenever I started thinking about how we were going to do this, I also come up with it needed to have a reward system to it. So, you know, as long as they were working, their grades were going to reflect that. I knew that they were at different levels of their writing skills, of their communication skills, but that wasn't the purpose of it, was to assess their skills. The purpose was to make sure that they went back and they looked at their education and they looked at what they had accomplished. So that reward system came from in the classroom, but it was also like an internal reward system for them. During the class, I always provided a dedicated time for completion. And I'll talk just a little bit more about that. But one of the things that was most important was giving them that one-on-one guidance and feedback. And it wasn't necessarily from me, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But I think the thing that really eased their mind was the multiple modes of presentation. We had some students that did want to present orally. I had students that were like, I don't care to do it as a PowerPoint and talk about it as a PowerPoint, but I don't want to stand up in front of somebody. And we had students that wanted to record it. So I was good with that. I thought, you know, right now we look at their comfort level, and we didn't want this to seem like a punishment. I wanted them to actually to be able to reap the rewards of getting to see that. So, Samara, can you go ahead and change for me? All right. So my guinea pig group, they were all seniors in a trigonometry course. Now, they were at various levels in content. Not all of them were great in math. So it was a course that had different levels. We had students that were college bound. I had students that had already knew that they were going to go to a career and technical center. I had students that knew they were going directly into the workforce. So that was something that was very important. And like I said, on number 3, their career goals were different. We always set aside Monday to be our dedicated SpacesEDU lab time. It was an extended period because it was our lunch period. So I had extra time. So every Monday, they knew that they were working on one entry, and it was the entry of their choice. They were encouraged to develop and choose 5 entries. They could have more than 5, but 5 entries is what we had decided that we were going to look at for this year's defensive learning. And what I did encourage them to do, let their peers read their pieces. Let other teachers read it. We were looking for feedback. I am a grammar person, and one of the things that drove me crazy was they wanted to write them like they text. And I'm like, oh no, 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 no. We can't have that, because it needed to be professional. And that was one of the things that I wanted to encourage with them, was when you go out and you are going to take this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about all kinds of things in a minute. So it's a resume. Okay, Samir, you can change it. All right. So when we're looking at this, I call it a parking garage, because we don't want to limit the number of entries they have. Now, the group of seniors that I did have, they were limited. I said 5. If you can do 5, I'm happy. But I also teach an honors geometry, and that's a group of freshmen and sophomores. So I wanted also to go into that class and give them a project and let them reflect on that project. I'm really big that there's a visual component to every entry. I think that reminds them of what it was like. It wasn't necessarily that the grade level entries were about a specific topic. It was about our durable skills. So when we were talking about working with transformations in geometry, I really wasn't worried about the project so much as a part of the entry, but I wanted to hear about their collaboration skills. They were working it with a group of kids they'd never worked with before. I wanted to hear about their communication skills, how they communicated. Those are the things that I feel like that are really almost more important than content, because those are the skills that they're going to carry into their careers. You know, you can always go back and look up how to do transformations, but you've got to figure out how to collaborate with other students, with other adults. That's part of it. Our entries did address a variety of durable skills. I wanted them to make sure that they knew what they were talking about. One of our skills was fortitude, and that was probably a word they weren't really aware of at first, but I talked to them about, said, that's your work ethic. That's about how hard you work on things. And what we've encouraged now, and we're getting ready to encourage more, is that every content area provide an opportunity for an entry, at least one, possibly two. And the reason I called it the parking garage is because I think we have students that are going to make entries when they're sophomores. They may love that entry. It allows for us to go back to revisit and to revise that entry. You know, they may go back and say, you know, whenever I wrote that entry, my grammar wasn't really good. I need to make sure that I've improved, and I want to show that in that entry. And it may be their most favorite entry. So that's why I call it a parking garage. It's just a place to store everything that they have, and they have 4 years to go back and look at everything they've ever done. All right, so Mayor. Okay, so these are some examples of some entries. Now, I do want to bring up something very quickly. Of course, we did go in, and in this set right here, we did take out the picture. And I want to tell you why. Because her first entry talks about her mental health. Okay, that was something that was very important to that student. She was so passionate about it. It was one of an entries. She could have chosen another entry, but she said, this entry means a lot to me. So I wanted to keep that there. So what I wanted to remind everybody is, if you remember when we used to work with portfolios, we always had alert papers. Okay, we may see alert entries, and we've got to be aware of that. This is not an alert entry. She talks about how her mental health improved. Okay, but whenever we're looking at entries, we've got to make sure that it's not an entry that raises concern for self-harm or for harm of another. There are things that can go into some of our entries, and we can't let that skip by. We've got to make sure that we're aware of those things. But for this student, she talks about her mental health, how it improved, and her second entry goes into her career, which is her nursing clinical. So she had made it through from a freshman to where her attendance was not good. We had concerns about her attendance. It got better. Now, did I say it was perfect? No, not at all. But it got better. It improved. And she's one of those students that's a success story. She really is a success story for us. And we got to see that because she wrote about it. If it was just something where we let her graduate, we wouldn't have known everything she had endured. I think that that is one of the best things that we can possibly do, is provide a platform for them to tell us what we have done right, what we have done wrong, what we can do better. what she went through, because it helps us understand our kids. And that comes from the counselor in me. Okay, that comes from that. That was 23 years. The good thing about that is I've been able to carry that into my classroom, and that's how I run my classroom. So you can do the next one. All right, here's a couple more entries. One of them, this first little boy, and these are both his senior picture was huge for him. And if you got to read it, he reached a milestone. He graduated. That was super important to him. He graduated. His next one was he checked off on all of his nursing skills. He right now is ready to go to nursing school, and he's already been accepted. He's a success story for us. And I think the thing when we look at our students, in this case right here, these students already had careers in mind. But we had a lot of students that were like, I'm going to go to college to do these things. And they still were big success stories for us. All right, let's see what's next. Okay. I'm going to let Kristen talk a little bit now.
So the photos that are on this slide are from our Defenses of Learning pilot, where our students got to go into their SpacesEDU account and to pull up their presentations. And so we have, so I'm just going to kind of walk through. So if I'm looking at the upper left, our first student there with her Spaces account behind her that says cheer competition. She was a foreign exchange student from Germany. And so she had no idea about any of these things. The kids that had been there their junior year, they kind of started hearing a little bit about it their sophomore and junior year, but Annika came to us completely. She had no idea, but she was able to you know, the evidence that's there behind her is actually a clip from a media presentation where she's one of the newscasters on the school's weekly news show, and so that was an example that she chose to share. Below her is a student from East Carter. So Annika went to West Carter. The student below her is from East Carter, and her slide is about her collaboration experiences that she had in some various clubs that she was a part of. Alex there in the center underneath of our Carter County Schools logo, he's our entrepreneur that I was talking about that started out with a lawn mowing, just him being a lawnmower by himself. And then Alex said he manages, actually my stepson works for him sometimes. So, you know, he manages other kids his own age, you know, and he shared his story, but he wants to go to dental school. And completely unrelated, but he talked about how, you know, he's learned some of these skills that he knows one day if he has his own practice as a dentist that he's going to be a business owner too. And so he made those connections and talked to us about that. We couldn't get his to work with our screen that day, so that's his laptop in front of him with his Spaces account pulled up there. Connor up in the top right hand corner, we just looked at his slides or his Spaces presentation on the previous slide with Mr. Huffman. But yeah, he was one of our West Carter students who went to the nursing program at the Career and Technical Center, and that's what he wants to do. That's the career he wants to pursue. But I will tell you, our little fella here in the bottom right hand corner, I think he stole the show for us that day. He's a welder. And he's got his welding cap on there as he's giving his presentation. And he was able to describe so many different types of welds that he was able to to accomplish throughout the year. But one of the things that stood out to me was when he talked about fortitude. That was one of his, and he talked about understanding that when he gets hired right after high school, he's not going to be the boss. He's going to have to do what the people that are over him on the jobs tell him to do. But he has to keep working, and he has to work harder and harder. And he equated that to learning from his welding instructor at our Career and Technical Center. Same thing, you know, when he went into the welding class, he thought he knew what to do because he'd been, you know, practicing welding in his garage with his papa. But then when he got with his instructor, he learned that you have to take the criticism and the constructive criticism from your instructor, just like you will a boss on a job. So these kids are making great connections and telling great stories for us.
Let me say one thing about our little welder. He's ornery. Okay, to start off with, love him. He came in 3 days before he was going to present. He goes, okay, I'm in trouble. I said, what have you done? He said, I'm not ready to present. So I said, okay, let's sit down and figure it, because I did not have him in class. He is one of our students that was coming from our technical school. So he came to me and he said, I need help. So the good thing about him is he took pictures of all of his different welds, things that he wanted to remember that he had done. We were able to sit down and work through and do his 5 entries, okay? Because he knew what he wanted to say. He could say it, and he would talk about it. Then we would go back through and he would write it and we would correct it. Okay, so you are going to have students that are not always going to be, on top of things, but he's excellent. He's an excellent presenter. He can talk about anything. He can talk himself out of anything, is pretty much what it amounts to. But I really did want to brag on him because he was proud of his presentation after he did it.
He very much,
He very much was.
Yeah. All these kids work. I mean,
Yes.
and this is like, we had about 40 kids who presented this day. That is a small, cross section, but we did, like I said, they all, it was very positive feedback that they were like, I love getting to just tell my story, and getting to tell you guys and let you all listen. And you learn things about kids. I mean, I hadn't seen these kids since their junior year, so I really hadn't seen them much their senior year. And you get to learn and hear what they have learned in high school and how they feel like they're prepared for the next step. So that was great. All right, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we do have 3 videos, and they're relatively the one in the upper left is a longer one. It's like a minute long, and then the other 2 are like 10 or 15 seconds. They're pretty short. So if we can play those. I don't know about our sound quality.
That might be because I was muted. Let me try.
Okay.
If you can just let me know.
Okay, go ahead and get started with that one.
Oh.
I'm not hearing it.
You're gonna have to share with sound, Samir.
Okay.
Sorry.
Apologies, everyone. Do that very quickly.
While you're doing that, I can talk a little bit. So the first one that we'll see there, he's an East Carter student. And he is he's in a group called TSA, which is a Technology Student Association, and that's what he's talking about. And then the two that are in the other 2 videos that are on there, those are examples of students who we did not have that wanted to present live. They wanted to record their, so they're actually like screen recordings. So the video is not great, but the audio for those 2 is great, and I'll point some things out whenever we get to those. So, okay.
Is a PVC kayak project I completed for TSA, and what it's talking about collaboration. This last year, I got to compete at the state competition level with the Technology Student Association, and got to build a PVC kayak with a group of my peers. And the only requirements that you're given for this project are the height, weight, and width measurements, and you're only allowed to use PVC pipes, connectors, saran wrap, and duct tape. It sounds as difficult as it sounds. We spent many hours in a workshop working together. Luckily, we were given a space to work by JMK Electric, as you can see by the decal that we were required to put on the on the boat. But it taught me to be able to work with other people, and for all of us in our group to be able to constructively criticize one another without feeling like we're being attacked, or that we're not trying to call one another stupid for having different ideas, and that we can effectively work together toward a difficult goal, and to put aside our own need to be right in order to make a better final product overall.
The next step was getting CPR certified. This was a huge step for being a CNA. We performed compressions, rescue breaths, and used an AED on a mannequin. We had instructors who came in and certified.
This is one of my proudest achievements and the biggest achievement of the year, which was passing my state exam. Me and my class spent 2 years working up to this moment, and I just want to thank my teachers, Miss Flannery and Miss Kaiser, for everything they did to help us get here and all the opportunities and the chances that we got throughout the experience. Thank you for watching.
So again, the last two there were just a couple of our girls that had gone through the vocational nursing program, and they just did not want to stand up and make presentations. And our goal was to, like I said, to make this as comfortable and as personalized for these students as we possibly could. And those two young ladies have, I mean, whenever they showed their videos to me, I could have just cried with them, like thinking about the things that they've gone through personally, and then hearing that, you know, when she said this is one of my proudest achievements, and she had that screenshot. I know you can't really see, but it's a screenshot of her certification scores that when she passed her CNA certifications. So these are things that these kids are really proud of. You know, Braden, the first one that we watched, he was very engaging, and he's a natural speaker. He did a great job with that presentation. That video was like 7 or 8 minutes long, and he had several different examples that we could have used. I just thought that PVC pipe kayak was pretty cool. But yeah, he's just a natural speaker. These two ladies just did not want to stand up in front of a crowd and give those presentations, so we gave them that option. So those are some real world examples from across our county. So I'm ready for our next slide. So kind of wrapping up then what we accomplished last year and having set some goals for moving into this year. So Huffman and I are taking this show on the road again on Thursday. Our teachers start, we started work with teachers on Monday, yesterday, but our school year actually begins next Monday, upcoming the 25th. So we have our opening conference, which is where we bring all of our teachers and instructional staff in our county together. And so Huffman and I are doing a session for our high schools to talk to every teacher together at the same time on our expectations from the district level of using SpacesEDU in their classrooms to collect evidence. So again, it's building that portrait of a learner to create those defenses of learning. We are also using this, we're also using SpacesEDU this year as a collection place for our ILPs. Kentucky requires students to have what's called an ILP, an individual learning plan. It's a graduation requirement. And so I've built some folders in there for our ILPs as well. So we're going to be talking to them about, you know, using their advisory time to get those ILP requirements in there too. And it's things that are meaningful. It's resumes, it's post-secondary readiness plans, it's career exploration. Those are all part of Kentucky's ILP plan. And so we have put some things into place in there, and we're going to be talking to the teachers about that and the expectation there. Our goal this year is for all seniors at both high schools to complete a defense of learning. So I will be heading out to talk to our seniors next week when they come to school. I've got a senior class meeting, and we're going to be giving kids the option to present in the fall or in the spring. We know some of our students are going to be more prepared to go ahead and get a fall defensive learning, get that checked. But that's our goal, is to get all of our seniors at both high schools to present either in the fall or the spring. We're also, one of the things we learned and was that our students need some coaching in making those connections between the durable skills and their entries to make those more clear. So our girl that had the mannequin on the last slide that talked about, you know, she knew all the terms that she was using in her nursing program, but she had not made a connection to a durable skill. We could have coached her to do that. Yes, so that's a reflection point for us, and we see that as a growth point for us this year, is to really work on coaching those students and making those connections. Continuing to work with our teachers on embedding the durable skills into their content lessons. This is not just a career and tech center or our CTE classes at our high schools. This can be done in English. Like I said, former English teacher, I can see places where it can really, it can happen. Math teacher, it's happening. And then we're also going to pilot a defensive learning group with some select 8th graders from both of our middle schools this year. So we are extending our SpacesEDU subscription down to our middle schools this year as well. So those are our goals, and those were very much driven by what we learned this year, and what we found from our practice this year. So that is all I have. Do you have anything you want to add?
I'm good.
That was incredible. Thank you, Kristen and Jeffrey. I think it's so powerful to have those real world examples. So I really appreciate that. And many of you joining might be wondering, well, how do I get started? Kristen, Jeffrey, Smear, I'm super pumped. I'm inspired. What do I need to do? What's the first step on SpacesEDU? I'm going to show you how you can get started. And the beautiful thing about it is it doesn't take too much time. So what you want to do to start off, and a reminder, is that these are district initiated portfolios. So district admin are the ones who are creating what we call a portfolio template. So when you're on SpacesEDU as a district administrator, when you log in, you'll be in your district administrator account. And what you want to do is go straight to your portfolio template tab on the very left. So this is where everything starts. When you click on your templates, just a reminder, you're not going to have 48. Likely you're going to have just a couple. So keep that in mind. And again, it all just starts with creating a template. Instead of doing one from scratch, what I would love to do is, hopefully you hear me okay. What I would love to do is show you one that's already ready made. So you can kind of see all the areas that you would fill out. And we'll go with our profile of success and defense of learning portfolio. So to look at this one, I'm just going to go to edit portfolio template, which is a good reminder. You can always modify and edit your templates, even when they're published or not. But what you would be filling out for your first template when you create one is giving it a name and a description. You're also able to add up to 10 pieces of media that can support students. So something that I really like, because it's at the students' fingertips, it can be nice reminders. We have a video from our district admin. We have our competencies from our portrait of a learner, and you can add up to 10 pieces of media. You can also look at permissions. So for district administrators, we're able to decide who gets access, whether it's district-wide, specific schools, or even certain grades, all grades. You also have control of teacher access. So do you want teachers to view all students at their school, or only view students that are in their class at that point? So you have that option to play around with that visibility and access. I'm just going to skip ahead for a second to talk about those sections. So sections are the different folders that students are able to post into, and I'm going to show you that example in just a second. But we're able to name our sections as well. So those sections might be around competencies, they might be around themes, maybe around graduate profiles, but you can add those and also add up to 10 pieces of media for students for resources and things that they may need to help them get started. So one example I like is maybe some sentence starters. Some ideas to get going, something that they can document and reflect on. And then just a quick note, you might have noticed I skipped over this. I just want to mention that this is something, if licensed, that admin can enable using just a quick toggle. And it gives educators in turn the opportunity to assign a proficiency score that we can help set depending on your district for each of those sections. So just want to make a quick note of that. But essentially, getting all of this set up doesn't take too much time. When you're done, you would add your template. And then once you publish it, that is when teachers and students would be able to see it in their portfolio tab. Another just quick note on that. When it's not published and it's unpublished, it just stays in your template area. Once it's published, it would be active and visible. So I want to switch gears here and show you what it looks like as a student. So I'm a student right now. I'm in Maya's portfolio. Just to show you quickly how I got here, when a student logs in, this is the dashboard that they're going to see. So a student logs in and they're in their classes dashboard. All we want to do for Maya to know is that we're going to skip our classes right now. We actually just want to go to portfolios. And when Maya clicks on her portfolio tab, any active and assigned portfolios that have been published will show up in this active tab. And this is where Maya can access those portfolios. Let's say Maya is from in grade 8, and these portfolios have been assigned from K to 8 or even K to 12. Anything that's not in the grade that it's been assigned to for Maya, so maybe if it's K to 8 or let's say K to 7, and now she's in grade 8, and these ones were only K to 7, they would go to our archived tab. So it's nice and clean for Maya when needed. So our dashboard of active portfolios will only show the ones that are assigned to her grade. And to pop into a portfolio, all Maya has to do is click on the card. And right now she's in her home account. couple things that I really like about this from a student perspective is you'll see that all these sections are the ones that we created as the district admin. So there's no setup for student or teacher. Maya can create a summary statement. She can create her post just using this big blue button from her home section. She can add up to 10 pieces of media, title, description. She can also post any of her media into multiple sections. So we know that there's some reflections and learning experiences that don't just fit in one category, right? So maybe it's collaboration, maybe it's being an effective communicator. So Maya can click on multiple of those sections or competencies and create that post. As Jeffrey and Kristen also shared, we do have a presentation mode as well within the student account. So let's say Maya's been building up her portfolio and her POG, and she wants to share some of this at a showcase. Maya simply has to bookmark posts that she would like added into her presentation mode. So right here, I'm going to bookmark a post and it's been added. Now, where does Maya find her presentation mode? She simply clicks on the presentation mode button, and this is where she can curate her presentation. Simply clicking on present will set up the presentation for her, where she can use her keyboard shortcuts and the ability to show teacher comments or student comments during her presentation. I love that it shows the section that the post is from and also the date it was created. Maya also has the ability to share a URL link, which is really cool to share with coaches, families, guardians, other members that are outside of her school community. She simply has to copy a link and share that portfolio. I will move on. We did have a few things here. I'll just quickly go over. I want to share a few best practices and takeaways for everyone just to consider as they start to build their template. And again, we will share the tutorial video for you, which kind of goes over everything I did mention with the district admin account, student account, and teacher account. Some things to keep in mind are artifacts. So we kind of talked about it already, but we want to choose artifacts that are meaningful, not just there to fill up the space. So think about different examples of showing growth in a certain skill, something that shows effort, highlights improvement, a challenge that you've overcome. And with the beautiful thing about SpacesEDU is you can have multiple different types of artifacts with photos, audio recordings, videos, file attachments, and much more. Just to add on, it's a good question to think about what makes digital documentation good. Something that I found that's been helpful is to have educators have that conversation with students and kind of build those rules together. So then there's like this basis and level setting of what that looks like. And just to wrap up, I'll pause there. Just want to leave some time for question or comments. I know we got right down to 4 o'clock, so I do appreciate everyone sticking around. Tatiana, I don't know if there are any questions that came up, but I'll pause here.
No questions on my end.
Amazing. Well, just wrapping up then, just got a few things I'd love to share with you all. We do have some amazing sessions coming up that I'd love for everyone to check out. I know I'm excited to be checking these out as well. Please feel free to use the QR code on the bottom right. I'll just going to keep it at the screen. And we have a really cool one with the portfolios that power future readiness, which is a great jumping off point from our conversation today. Also, you can check out our website for more resources, including a video tutorial, but we will share that with you. And we really want your input, so feel free to always check out our public roadmap for feedback, and it's how we keep improving. We love to have that educator voice. And finally, thank you again for spending your time with us today. I think it was super beneficial to have that real world, real life example and implementation, looking at how it can feel and be in the classroom. We really appreciate your time, and I'm excited, and I know we're excited to see how you bring your portrait of graduate to life in your district. Please don't forget, we do have a survey. It's helpful. It takes a few minutes. And again, for myself, it's good to know what went well and what could be better next time. Kristen, Jeffrey, I'd love to give you just a minute or two to say anything.
I just want to thank you guys for being here with us today, and thank you all, Tatiana and Samir, for all your support and just always being willing to answer our questions.
Let's hope everyone has a great school year.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye now.